what's actually worth spending your hard-earned money on when you want to start animating. There's a lot of expensive tools, gear, software you can get, but you actually don't need that much when you're just starting out. Especially if you're starting on a budget, I've put together 3 animation starter kits. These are based on how serious you are about animating right now. And these are just for people interested in traditional animation without spending more than you need to. These are kits I wish existed when I started, and I'm only going to recommend tools that I've personally used. Plus, if you stick around till the end, I will share the purchases I regret the most. So this way you do not spend your money on them. Let's start with Animation Starter Kit number 1, Testing the Frame. The reason why it's called Testing the Frame is because it's based on who this kit is for. This kit is perfect for somebody who is curious about animation, has not animated before, and you want to try it out for yourself. Then you see yourself doing animation and trying it out for a week to a month. This is very much the, I heard about animation, I want to try it and see if I like it kind of kit. So what's in this animation kit? The idea is to keep it easy, to keep it simple, and also since you're just trying to figure out if this is something that you actually want to do, it's also starting you off on things that you can even change and use for other things in your house rather than just animation specifically. So how can you do this without spending a ton? And I've also done a little bit of research on Amazon about approximately what kind of prices you're looking at when you're buying these items. There's 3 things in this kit. My first recommendation that if you do want to get this kit is sticky notes. And these go for about $7.50 on Amazon, depending on, of course, which pack you get. I recommend getting lighter colored ones so you can actually see your drawings on them versus darker ones. The reason why you want to get these for your animation kit is because, like the Old Animators, you get to draw your first drawing on the first page, then you go to the next day you will change your drawing a little bit, and then you would change it again and again and again until you reach the end of your animation. And then what the animators would do to create the classic movies is they would flip through it, and by doing that, you would see how the animation, the action would play out. And that's all there is to animation. You just flip through a series of images, and that creates your motion. And also, if you figure out that animation is not for you and you bought a whole pack of sticky notes, you can use them for other things like note-taking, reminders, or you can just give them to your kids, and that works as a great plaything. However, if you are feeling a little bit more serious about animation, or you want something that is going to stay bound, there are actual flip books you can buy. They're a little bit more expensive, about $16, but they do work really well. And I know this because I worked in a camp and they wanted to teach a little bit of animation. So I recommended they get these flip books. The kids loved it. They would draw on it. I used it back then. I wish I still had it, but this was years ago. So now on to the second essential part of this starter kit is pencils. You can find pencils for about $8. And the reason why I am specifically recommending mechanical pencils is because if you're not an artist yet, or you don't really deal so much in physical mediums, then you don't have to try to practice a bunch of techniques because you get special pencils that are graphite, charcoal. If you just keep it simple, it works. And I'll be very, very honest, I don't really use all those pencils. I've tested a lot of this stuff, but ultimately, my days, if I am drawing, I am doing it with a mechanical pencil, like one of these. This is what I use. And you can just use the back of the eraser. You don't need to get an additional eraser as long as you keep your pencil strokes light. That brings me to the last piece in this kit. This one is free. It is YouTube videos. When you're just starting animation, you probably don't know a lot. You're going to want to find out information about how to create animation, what the 12 principles of animation are, how to even get started, what exercises you can practice. You can find all of that on YouTube. So please don't spend money on a course, don't spend money on a book yet. Just watch YouTube videos. There are some great, great content out there, and it is free. So with all of those items said, what does the total come out to? The total is somewhere between $15.50 and $24. And this is just pricing at the time of this recording. By the way, any tool or item that I mention that you want to get and you don't want to have to try doing a bunch of searching and research yourself, I have an affiliate link in the description below. What this means is that you can just click the link to check out the item. And then if you decide you want to buy it, I'll get a small commission. It does not add any additional cost to you, which is the great part. And this is a small way to support my channel if you decide you want the item. Please don't buy it if you don't want it or you can't afford it. I'm not making this video for you to spend money. This video is for anybody who wants to spend money well. With that, I'm going to move into animation starter kit number 2. This one I'm calling Practice Like an Old Animator. So in that case, who is this animation kit even for? This is for somebody who's done a little bit of animating, you like it, or you're somebody who already knows you want a better, more traditional animation setup. Something that will make it easier to animate, but still relatively inexpensive. This is for somebody who is seeing themselves doing this for somewhere between 2 to 8 months minimum. And the reason why this is called Practice Like an Old Animator is because this is based on the setup of old animators, but with like a slightly more modern twist. Animators in the past, they would sketch on top of a draftsman table and they would be flipping through their pages, similar to the sticky notes in the flip book version, but a much larger scale. This kit has 7 items in it. I'm going to start with the most expensive, but also the most crucial piece of equipment, and that is the light table. You can get a decent light table for about $20. In fact, this is the one that I have. I can't turn it on because it needs to be hooked up to a power source. But the thing is that these light tables are also known as tracing tables, where you just trace paper. You turn it on, and then you'll be able to see through your stack of papers, through your drawings, and this way you can see how all of your action lines up and which little pieces to change in order to create your animation. It's old school onion skinning effect. Onion skinning just means that you can see a series of drawings together, but I have another video that goes more into onion skinning if you want to check it out. So if you have your light table, then what are you going to draw on? Because you don't draw on the actual light table. What you draw on to create your animation would be paper. So that's the next part of this kit. And there is special animation paper, of course. Naturally, it's more expensive. You could use just regular printer paper. I've done that in the past when I was making this animation. I was making that animation when I was using that light table. It's not the greatest, made it years ago, and I colored it digitally later. But my point being is that you can do good animation on regular printer paper, and an entire stack of printer paper costs about $7. You can just start with one purchase of a bunch of paper, 8.5 by 11, normal printer paper. You do want a lot though, because the ratio for 1 second of animation can be anywhere between 6 and 24 drawings, which would mean that every second of animation will be 24 drawings. If you wanted 10 seconds of animation, you would be drawing 240 pages of drawings in order to create a 10-second animation. I really like animation, which is why I can go on and on about all of this. I'm trying to deliver what you want to get and why it matters in what kind of animation you're going to do and how it connects in the biggest scope of animation. That's why I'm giving you all of this information. But I will move on to the third piece of equipment that you are going to want to get if you are going to go with this kit, and that is clips to hold down your paper. I found these on Amazon. They have the silicone, the rubber kind of end. So this way your papers won't get scratched and the light table won't get ruined, which might be a different story if you get metal clips. And these clips are about $8. Next up is you're going to want to make sure you have your pencils. Again, you can use mechanical pencils. You don't have to get crazy with them. Those are going to be about $8. Or if you've already got the first animation kit, you don't have to make a second purchase. And since this kit is a step up and you're investing a little bit more into it because you know you want to do animation, I would also recommend you get pens for inking and for getting polished lines for your animation. I personally like using Artist Loft pens, but I couldn't find any for a decent price. So I don't have a link for that in the description because it would be so expensive if you're just starting out. I've also used Prismacolor. Again, I couldn't find a good link for it. So I found these others. And the good thing about ink pens and pencils is there really isn't that much difference because everything is pretty much made the same way. The reason why I'm specifically recommending these inking pens is because they have some of my favorite tips. They have the 0.8 and they also have the B brush. Those are the ones that I love using the most. I would recommend you get the whole packet and not just focus on the 2 that I'm recommending. Is that you're going to find your own style, you're going to find your own way of liking to do things, and this is just getting you started. The last item that I recommend you get if you want to get this kind of kit, and that is get an eraser. In the first kit, you didn't need an eraser. Everything was very small. You weren't doing a lot. But with the paper being bigger, you're doing more frames of animation. You're going to want an eraser that can handle a little more. Whether this is a kneaded eraser or a pink eraser, either of those work. It's about $1 difference. And do not get the jumbo pink erasers. Those never ever work. Since now I've gone through all of the items that you should get, what does the total come to? It's going to be around $48. We are up to animation kit number 3, the digital traditional animator. So let's start off with the question that I've asked at the beginning of every single one of these kits. Who is this kit for? This is for somebody who really wants to animate. You know that you want to do this for a really long time, but you do not want to have to deal with the hassle of storing paper, keeping track of the paper, making sure that all of your sequences don't get out of sequence. And that means you want to go straight to the digital version of traditional animation because we are in the digital age. And that means that if there was something you could do traditionally, old school, there is a digital version of it now. I am going to add a little bit here that for this kit, while I really do try to only recommend tools and equipment and software that I personally have used, once you get into digital animation, it can get really expensive. So in this case, I do have 2 options, but I will say the second option that I'm recommending, I have not personally tried. I have just tried to do research on it so that it is something that I can recommend confidently that would be great as part of your kit. So then hopefully I haven't scared you off this kit because it is very good. This is actually the way that I'm currently animating the most. But what goes into this kit? I'm going to start off with the most expensive option, and that is the iPad. The iPad that I specifically have is the iPad Pro, and it goes for about $1,150 new. I personally like it because it has a 13-inch screen. It's still small enough that I can carry it around anywhere. And I really like how much graphics and options it has because this company, Apple, is known for creating graphics. They were ahead of it in I think they came out in the 1990s, and they were always known for their great graphics. By this point, Samsung and everybody else has caught up a bit, but Apple is still the leading people. The one thing that I do not like about Apple is that they do not include a pen to go with their tablet, which means that you have to purchase extra for an Apple Pen in order to even use the tablet. There are 2 types, which means that there's a range of price that you could pay for, somewhere between $95 and $130. I personally have the more expensive one because this one, it will connect to my iPad magnetically and it will also charge that way. I didn't want to have to worry about losing it or having to charge it separately and then not remembering where I put it. So this was a great solution for me, but it did mean that it made a more expensive option. But if you don't want to spend that much, I completely understand. It is a lot, and I'm kind of holding my head here thinking about what I probably paid, even if it was a year or 2 ago when I got my Apple iPad. And that's why I have come up with a second option if you still want to be a digital animator. And this is, I'm going to look at my notes so that I actually get the name right. This is the Wacom Move Ink Pad. And this goes for about $450. There are 2 reasons why I'm recommending this one over others. And if you find a better one out there, please go right ahead. If you want to check out the one that I'm recommending, again, link in the description below. But the reason why I'm specifically recommending the Wacom is because I am familiar with the brand. I do know they do great stuff. And 2, while this is a small screen, it is similar to an iPad in the sense that you'll actually be able to see your drawing on it versus having to hook it up to a computer. And you can also bring it anywhere. However, the one negative with the Wacom Moving Pad is that it is meant to be for animation and drawing. This means that unlike the iPad where you can do emails, download other apps, do drawings, animation, I might even be able to do audio on it, honestly, but I don't usually work in audio. So my point is that you will be able to do a range of stuff on an iPad versus being limited to only drawing. But neither of these actually will help you in animation unless you have the software to match. Luckily, there are both free and paid options for both of these. If you've been poking around the illustration space, the animation space for traditional animation, you might have heard about Procreate. Procreate is a great drawing app. I love using it. It's about $13, and there's an animation version of it called Procreate Dreams for about $20. You don't have to get the Procreate Dreams to do animation. Currently, I'm pretty much only working on Procreate when I do my simple animations. However, what about the free versions? The free versions are Fresco, which you can get for free on the iPad. And then if you find you really like Fresco, then you can always upgrade later. Those are apps that I would specifically recommend for the iPad. You might still be able to get Fresco on Wacom tablet. I'm not sure. However, I do know that you can get Krita on Wacom. and that is a free drawing app. I have not personally used it because I don't have a Wacom tablet, but I've seen it online a lot and I've seen good reviews. Is that all you need for your digital traditional animation kit? And the answer is no. There are two more crucial things that I would recommend you get. One is something that nobody thinks about, and that is a drawing glove. This is a drawing glove, and I'll put it on to show you what I mean. What this does, it's going to protect your hand from accidentally touching your screen and then creating lines in your drawings or your animation when you don't want to. The only thing the tablet is recognizing is the tip of your pen. And I love this one. It actually does not have a brand name on it. My husband found it on Amazon, and it's my favorite one because it's extra thick along the side where you're putting your hand down. I had another drawing glove by a different company, and I was running into so many problems because in the summer when my hands would sweat, because of all the extra heat, it would still end up messing with the tablet when my hand would be resting on it. So the extra thick part over here protects my hand, and I highly recommend it. It's my favorite drawing glove. So then that brings us to the last thing that I would recommend as essential for this kit, and that would be to just get some extra storage. This can be through cloud, through Google. They each have different pricing. There's plenty of options for extra external storage. It's just going to depend on what's compatible with your tablet and your software. So now on to the scary part. What would this potentially cost you? If you go for the Apple iPad, it will be about $1,326. This is including the iPad, the stylus, the drawing glove, and an external storage option. If you pick the Wacom tablet, it will be about $480 for the tablet, the pen, the drawing glove, and a storage option. I'm not counting software in this pricing, as those can be purchased later, and you have free options right now. So the three purchases that I regret the most, I'm going to start with the one that I actually did not purchase, but got and would never recommend anybody purchase. Okay, maybe not anybody, but for me and anybody who thinks like me, I would not recommend this first one. So first up is the Wacom tablet. This is definitely an older version. This was given to me by my mom's friend, who I'm very, very thankful for because she did not have to, and she did. Unfortunately, it did not work for me. This is one of the tablets that you have to connect to a computer. And unlike any iPads or tablets that I recommended previously, you have to have really good hand-eye coordination. Your drawing is not going to appear over here. It's going to appear on your screen. And then you have to hold your pen and you have to draw while looking at your screen. It did not work for me. My second regret, these blank storyboard books. I have two of them, one where there's bigger panels, one where there are smaller panels. Storyboarding is a great thing to do if you are animating because then you get to see how your story is supposed to lay out. You can plan your action a lot better. You can find emotional beats. It is a wonderful tool. I personally just don't see a point in having these because it's so much easier for me to just draw my own panel boxes, sketch something out really quickly. And if I need to make something look more professional, I actually have developed a template that I just use on my iPad or in Illustrator, which that's a different kind of animation and skill set that you don't have to do unless you're thinking of motion design and other kinds of animation. And my last purchase is probably going to seem the most silly, but this one I regret buying. This is a posable mannequin. The idea behind it is that you can pose your figure and then you can use it as reference for drawing poses, for your animation, for action scenes, for story, for anything. But it is very much a wooden figure. And you can find better reference online or by taking pictures of yourself or filming yourself. And that's everything. If you like the animation kits, you are more than welcome to check them out in the description below. Everything is there minus the stuff that I regret buying. Good luck animating.